Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. My name is Xochitl. Thank you so much for stopping by. If you haven't already subscribed, don't forget to hit that subscribe button. And if you are already subscribed, thank you so much for tuning in for another video. Today, I'm so excited to share with you a couple of new products that I picked up from a brand that's new to CVS. Prior to this, I have not heard of this brand. I forgot where I saw it. It was probably somewhere on Instagram, but the brand is called Joah Beauty, and they have so many products to choose from. Check on CVS.com and look up Joah Beauty, and depending on the different products, you can check out and see which one of your local CVS stores have it, or you can even order these products online. I picked up a couple different ones, just experiment, kind of dip my toe in the waters and just kind of see what this brand is all about. So if you guys are interested and are curious about this brand just like I was, definitely just stay tuned for some reviews and demos of some of the products that I picked up. So the first product that I picked up was their eyeshadow palette. This is their birthday suit palette, and they have two different shades. I picked up mine in the shade Bear, which has more of those red tones. There's another one that's definitely more in that just plain brown bronzy kind of shades, and these run for $10. So for $10 you get 6 shades, and right off the bat it's mostly kind of satin finish shades, kind of semi-shimmery, and you get 1 matte shade. So I feel like if you want to maybe do a little bit more with this palette, you're probably gonna have to pick up one of your regular matte shades, transition shades. Maybe if you want to smoke it out a little bit, I feel like you're gonna have to pair this with some other matte shades to really make it work. I made it work, however, I'm just not the biggest fan of putting shimmery and or satin shades in my crease area, which I feel like I kind of had to do. And so I went in first with the shade Rose for an all over wash of color. Then I went in with the shade Night Out in my crease for that pop of redness, and then the shade Birkin in my like just inner crease, lower crease, really to kind of smoke it out a bit. And then we went in with a little bit of Baby Doll and the money sign one, the 3 money signs for my lid, and then finally the shade Bubbly for underneath my brow bone. So you can totally use every single shade in this palette. However, it's just kind of a palette of like all kind of satin shimmery shades, so unless you kind of want to substitute some other matte shades, I think you really will like this. In general, I feel like kind of have maybe mixed feelings almost about these shades. I feel as though if they were just all for the lid, I think I'd definitely love them, except for maybe even that matte shade, but even that I feel like you can totally use on the lid as lid shades. I think they work. I think they're great. As kind of transition shades, I feel like I need a little bit more variety. Also, something that I found interesting when kind of dipping into some of these shades, I forgot which color it was. Was it Night Out? Or I forgot which one. In my blending brush. Maybe the fact that they're just not meant for blending brush shades. Kind of dipped it in, and then as you kind of tap off the excess, it's almost like everything is excess. Everything kind of taps off and kind of comes off, which is kind of like, okay, so basically you can't really tap it off so that you don't get fallout, because if not, you're still just gonna get all fallout all over your face. So fallout is definitely crazy, and so either you get fallout and pigmentation, or you get not much to kind of work with. So definitely kind of had to like build these shades up a little bit. They're a little bit tricky to work with. I would probably give this, honestly, for what it is, if this is like a just take with me palette, I would definitely give it like a 5. If it was maybe I'm gonna substitute in some of my matte shades transition, then I would definitely give it like a 6.5. In general, I feel like these perform well on the lid. I think they do need a little bit of help with some Max Fix Plus. For example, I went in with the shade Baby Doll on its own. It's mediocre, is alright. With Max Fix Plus, of course, though, it did kind of step it up a notch, but I think it's just still okay. I feel like there's some other like better drugstore eyeshadow palettes that give you that nice transitional matte shades and the shimmers and the satins all together, whereas this one, I feel like if it maybe had some more matte shades in there, then I think I would have liked it even more, because even that Birkin matte shade, the formula was nice. Like, it was pretty good. It was pigmented, and then, you know, it just blended out really easily. So I feel like if they would have put in some of those, I think this palette would have been even better. The next product I want to talk about is the Joah Beauty Truly Yours Natural Finish Foundation, and I was really excited to pick this up, especially because it was only $8, which at the drugstore, anything $10 or below foundation is getting harder and harder to find these days. So I was like, $8, let's check it out. The downfall of this foundation is that there are only 8 shades. At least CVS, all I see are 8 shades that they provide, and honestly, it's not a really great shade selection to begin with. It's really, really light, and you have some tan shades, and I am the 3rd darkest shade, and I am not that dark. This is my tan shade in general, and it's still not that dark, you know. So I picked up mine in the shade Natural Beige for my tan. I think this works really well for me. And then you have the next 2 shades up, which are still more on the like tan shade range. It's like probably the darkest one is like whatever people use the self tanner for. If you use that Loving Tan tanner, that's probably the darkest shade comparison that they have, which is really sad. So anyone anymore in that medium range, it's a little bit darker or dark or deep, you're not gonna find something. So I would definitely dock some points there for the shade selection, especially if I'm the 3rd darkest shade. So moving on from that, it is one of those dropper foundations, so it definitely is on the maybe lighter side, lighter feeling. I'm like, is this kind of more of a serum? I'm not sure what the finish is going to be like. Adding this to my face, I did one side of my face, I added my face primer, which is my favorite L'Oreal Glow Lock primer. That is my favorite primer, favorite drugstore primer, and every foundation I love it with. So half my face I did with the primer, and then this half of my face I did no primer, just to kind of see the difference. Also, this half of my face with no primer, I also did use a beauty blender, and the other half with a primer I used a brush, just to kind of see that comparison as well. And honestly, I feel like foundation, sometimes I don't know what to expect. I have dry skin, so there's not every foundation I'm gonna love. I'm not a normal skin type person, so for dry skin I'm just like, I don't know what to expect from this foundation. Haven't really seen many reviews on this line in general, so I'm not sure what to expect, but we're gonna check it out. With the beauty blender, I think it blended out beautifully, so easily. Given that this is more of like a dropper foundation, it's not super thick, but I was pretty impressed with the coverage, even just with the beauty blender. I was impressed with the coverage. I expected a really light coverage foundation, but with like one layer, it's a really nice, like almost a medium coverage foundation. So if you love that type of coverage, which I do, I was like, okay, alright, okay, let's see the other side with a brush. Sometimes a lot of foundation with a brush for dry skin, it's like, it's a hit or a miss. It's not like always gonna work as well as a beauty blender for my skin type specifically. With the brush, I loved it as well. I was like, oh my god, okay, alright, it blended out beautifully so easily. And honestly, I could have just left it with one layer of foundation. It gave me a really nice medium coverage. I went back and just kind of like dotted areas maybe where I kind of had a little bit of my like blemishes kind of peeking through. Anywhere else I wanted to even out, nothing crazy. I definitely didn't go in as much my second round as I did the first layer, and I was like, wow, okay, I'm really liking this. Definitely gave me a nice natural finish, almost for my skin type, almost like a demi matte, but like a comfortable satin demi matte. It was really nice. If I ever for my skin type want to go that demi matte route, I was like, okay, I'm liking this so far, but let's just wait and see how we like it, you know, as a day kind of progresses. So in just, you know, first application, I was like, wow, this is really nice. I'm very impressed with this foundation. I will say I definitely prefer this side with primer underneath as opposed to without, and I feel like that's just how I feel with any foundation that I try out. I always use a primer underneath, and then depending on what your problem areas are, what issues you kind of want to correct, that's the type of primer I use. I have dry skin, so I always go for a very hydrating or maybe even type of a luminous primer because I'm struggling in those areas. So that's what the L'Oreal Glow Lock primer is for me, and the side of my face with that L'Oreal Glow Lock primer, I love it, especially because I feel like I don't notice my pores as much as the side without primer. I think definitely if you are someone who has larger pores, more noticeable, I would definitely do like a pore reducing type of primer with this foundation. I feel like that's really the only issue, and it is more on the satin natural finish side, so that's the type of finish I'm gonna get out of it, and that's the type of finish that I feel like I do get out of it, which I do like. As much as I love my dewy luminous, I do really like a nice satin finish foundation. So for dry skin, that's the type of finish you're gonna get. I think normal skin, you'll also like this as well. Oily skin, I feel like the finish is definitely gonna kind of, you know, differentiate a little bit, maybe depending on the type of primer that you use. If you use more of a matte finish primer and or blurring primer, I think you're gonna like it depending what primer you use. Also oily skin, maybe it's gonna give you some more of a luminous finish, but for dry skin, $8, I would check this out. But then again, I don't know if everybody's going to be able to because of the shade selection. So that I feel like is the only con for me for this foundation. It lasts throughout the day. I would give it like 7.5 hours before it starts to fade a little bit. And that's with this really hot weather. So I think it's doing okay. Honestly, out of all the things, I think I really liked the foundation, and I did not expect that whatsoever. The next product that I picked up was the Joah Beauty Truly Yours Dark Circle Concealer, and it's one of those with a little sponge tip and a kind of like clicky pen, which I'm not always the biggest fan of, especially like the first time you try it, because you gotta click and click and click, and it took a while to get some product out. But that's just with all the clicky pens. I mean, it's good, I guess, so it doesn't just like burst out or anything. This concealer is $8, and once again, shade selection not so great. I think that's gonna be a reoccurring theme here. Shade selection could be better. We would like some more options. Only 5 different options. I got mine in the shade Classic Ivory, which once again I think was like either the darkest, no, probably maybe second darkest concealer shade, which is like really okay. And I mean, you're trying to cancel out dark circles here, and honestly I feel like I'm not sure what color to think this is from the packaging. I feel like it really doesn't match the packaging, so I'm just kind of like, I'm guessing here. I'm like, usually I fall under the Ivory, Classic Ivory. I'm a little bit tanner, so let's go with this one. And I feel like it definitely worked out for my skin tone, my skin shade right now. This will probably be closer to my natural skin tone shade when I'm not as tan. So it definitely gave me a little bit of a brightening effect. I like the formula. It was creamy. It was not hard to blend out. It was pretty easy to blend out. It gives you almost close to a mattifying-ish finish, but it wasn't dehydrating for my under eyes, which can get really dehydrated. Go figure, I have dry skin. However, maybe it was the shade. Maybe if I would have gotten a shade up closer to my actual skin tone, like matching, I feel like it would have probably covered dark circles accordingly. I think, you know, I am going, this is a little bit lighter, but once again, it's kind of hard to gauge how it wasn't super light. It definitely gave me that brightening effect. I feel like even when I kind of swatch it in the back of my hand, it looks a little bit darker than how it appears on my face. So I was like, ooh, is this darker than my foundation? What actually wasn't. It was a little bit lighter, so I feel like this color is still like, the dark circles, you can barely see them. It covers them pretty well. I feel like it could be a little bit better. It doesn't vanish them. They're not completely gone. I can maybe kind of see them peeking through. In the comparison, one eye versus the other, it made like a nice little slight difference. But I feel like I've had some other concealers like without a peach corrector or anything that I feel like maybe the coverage is just a little bit better. I would say this is maybe like a medium coverage concealer. So I just like it. I don't love it. I just like it. I would totally still use it as a regular everyday concealer, but I feel like if I really wanted to cancel out those dark circles, if I really wanted to correct those dark circles, I would need to go in with like a peach corrector. I feel like this doesn't totally eliminate them. It helps, but it's not a one-all be-all product. So I feel like it does a pretty okay job. My eyes are looking better than it did, but I think it's just okay. I think if you wanted a regular concealer, not saying that it's going to correct those dark circles right out the bat, I think it's just a regular concealer. I think I like it. As a dark corrector concealer, I think it's just okay if you put it into that category. They also had another concealer, which was like a full coverage one, but I wanted to try out this one first because I wasn't sure. Sometimes those full coverage, like thicker ones, are maybe better for all around the face. I wasn't sure how well it's going to do underneath my eyes. I feel like maybe that one would have creased a little bit more underneath my eyes, which this one didn't. So if you have a problem with creasing, this one did not crease underneath my eyes. Once again, I think out of the products, I still really like the foundation. I think that's totally my favorite out of the ones I tried out. I think this one, if I just had this to work with, I would totally use it. I would totally use it up in my everyday routine. The next product that I picked up, I'm kind of confused. Even at the store, I wasn't sure which one to choose from. This is the Be My Everything Powder Contour Palette, and there's 2 different shades. I got the shade Light, the shade selection of these 3, and then they have a medium. So it's supposed to have like a shimmery highlight, a bronzer, and a contour. It's really confused because when you open it up, it looks like more of a shimmery highlight, an under eye matte highlight, and a bronzer. So this runs for $14, definitely on the more pricier side. I feel like I've definitely, like I've mentioned before, my Wet n Wild highlight and contour palette is only $5. There's some other ones out there. So this is $13. I'm really confused as to how this middle shade is supposed to be the bronzer and this is supposed to be the contour. This feels more like a bronzer. This feels more like an under eye highlight. Let's just, how is that? What is this bronzing? I use this to clean up, look at that. I use this to clean up my contour, and then honestly when I was setting my under eyes with another powder, I was like, yo, I could have just used this to set my under eyes because it's that brightening. It's definitely more of a under eye highlight. Interesting. However, as an under eye highlight, I really like it. To clean up underneath my contour, I really like it. It's really nice and smooth. It's definitely very buttery. Even the contour shade, it's definitely warmer. It reminds me more of a bronzer, but it blends out really smoothly. I really just like the pigmentation. It's not too much. I feel like sometimes the drugstore brands of like bronzers and contours, they can be really pigmented and just really dry and hard to blend, and you put it on your face and you just got a splotch of like just orange on your face. This was not the case though. I think this is definitely more of a bronzer shade, and I think it did a really good job of sculpting on my face. It's not too orange, it's not too warm, it's not too cool. I think for my skin tone that works out really nicely. They switch up the names as a highlight and the bronzer. I think that I would not be so confused about this product because these are pretty good. I like the formulas of these. These are pretty good highlight and contours. I think I would really like this if they would advertise it correctly and not confuse everybody, because then I was like, should I pick up the medium shade? Whereas those 2 bronzers and contours actually look maybe more similar to bronzer and contour, but then that highlight was probably a little bit too deep for me. So I think just switching up the color names and what the products are would clarify everything for everybody. The highlight shade, I think it's just okay. As I've mentioned before with like drugstore affordable, maybe like trios or duos, it's very rare that I do really like the highlight shade in the shimmery highlight shade, at least in those palettes. I feel like sometimes they're an afterthought. I understand it can be really hard to kind of match that shimmery highlight to different skin tones and different skin shades, especially if you just kind of have one broad light spectrum to work with. I didn't mind it. It's definitely not like a bam in your face highlight, so if maybe you're not a fan of those, like we'll pay you know, that's a highlight, you might like this. It's a nice, very subtle highlight, kind of similar to like that Essence highlight that a lot of people like. Something subtle, like an everyday, like I don't want to shimmer to the god type of highlight. I think you'll like it. That's why I'm just okay with it. I like it. I don't love it. It's okay. Overall, this palette, like I said, just clarify everything, and I think this can be a really good palette. What is just interesting, I feel like you don't need all this thickness for the palette. I feel like if you slim it down a little bit, I feel like, you know, it could be a little bit more travel friendly. Same thing for the eyeshadow palette. I don't know why they need to be this thick. I feel like especially my collection I kind of have, they would slim them down a bit. I think I'd like it even more. The last product I want to talk about is the Joah What a Matte Liquid Lipstick. They have a couple of different lipstick forms, whether it's the traditional lipstick, like the bullet one, and they have that like in a matte velvet formula, and then they have the jelly formula, and then they have a couple other ones. Of course, I wanted to try the liquid lipstick just to see what affordable brands can come up with for the formulas of their liquid lipstick. I think the packaging is really cute. I do like the frosted container. It looks really nice. I had some high hopes for this one. It's only $6. $6.99, so it's only $7, and they have 10 different shades, which is actually really nice, the shade range. They had some other like darker ones. I wanted to pick up one first, see how I liked it, and see if it was worth maybe picking up some other ones. I like the doe foot applicator of this product. I also really do like the formula going onto my lips. Feels really creamy. It does not feel over drying. It doesn't feel like I'm just swatching paint on my lips. I don't know if you guys know what I'm talking about. Some liquid lipsticks, it feels very thin, and it just smells, and it just feels like a paint type of product. There's no like comfort to it. There's nothing. This feels really creamy on the lips, and it doesn't feel too over drying. However, I feel like maybe it depends on how many layers you put on your lips, but I feel like it doesn't last very long. Like, I don't know, as I kind of like put on this like this, I can kind of see like just, you know, some cracks going on there. While eating and drinking, of course, on the center of the lips, it just kind of, you know, disappears a little bit. It's not the most long lasting. It is one of the more comfortable formulas. I don't know if it's just how many layers I kind of put on just to kind of really, you know, separate around the lips, especially because you need a couple of dips to really even this out around. However, I was happy with the fact that this is their lightest shade. This one is the shade Peanut Butter, and it wasn't streaky on my lips. It definitely just the amount of dips, like how much formula you get with a dip, you definitely just have to dip it back in and really just kind of get it all across the lips. So maybe I could have added too much product where it does kind of crack off, but I would maybe give this like a 7 out of a 10, just because I'm just like, I don't really like that it's kind of, I can see it cracking, but I mean, how often do I talk like this, you know? So I just happened to notice that, just something that I do in general. But, you know, having it straight on the lips, it doesn't look super dry. It doesn't look like it's cracking on my lips. So 7.5. I do like that they have other colors, and they had some really nice vampy shades to work with. Of course, I would definitely want to check out what the difference is when I put on a lighter shade as opposed to a darker shade. I wish I would have picked a darker shade just to kind of see. Sometimes you can really see a huge difference with formulas and the color selection. Sometimes not so much. So let me know if you guys are interested in that. But overall, I like it. I like it. I like this liquid lipsticks. If you want to check out some of their other colors, now I'm kind of definitely interested to check out some of their other lipstick forms to see what those are about. Overall, we had some hits and some misses from this line, but I didn't know what to expect, and I liked a lot of the products. The foundation, I would definitely say go check it out if you have normal to dry skin. This I was really impressed by. I did not expect to really like this foundation at all. Wish they had a couple more colors to deal with. Also the concealer, I think if you had these two products, I think you would be fine. Totally like them, as well as I would check out maybe their liquid lipsticks and even the powder contour palette. Just think of it as a bronzer, a under eye matte highlight, and a shimmery highlight. If you think about it like that, I think you'll like it. I think for me, maybe the eyeshadow palette was probably just the most disappointing. I feel like in general, sometimes drugstore eyeshadow palettes, I don't always have the highest hopes for, because I feel like they don't really give you too many mattes. However, a lot of the drugstore palettes are catching on that, you know, people want transition shades. They don't want just a whole palette of shimmer shades. They want to just take that one palette with them and travel type of thing. So I feel like if they kind of add some of those in, then I would definitely really love their eyeshadow palette. I think I could do so many more looks with it, and it would be one of those I'm just gonna take with me palettes. The prices I think were pretty good and not too extravagant whatsoever, and I think honestly I'm still curious to try out some more products with this brand. That's how I know I was actually impressed with some of the products that I picked up. So I definitely want to check out some more and see what those are about, because they had a lot of products in stores, and I was just like, okay, it's payday and I got some other bills to do. I kind of want just general selection here and just kind of check it out. I don't want to spend all my money and find out I don't like it. But the fact that I do, I'm like, okay, let's check out some of their other products. So if you've seen a Joah Beauty at your local CVS and there's some products you've been curious about, definitely let me know. Maybe I'll be able to pick those up next payday, because we got some other products to kind of play with. So definitely let me know what your thoughts are down below. If you guys have tried any of these at your local CVS, you've picked them up, if you've seen them, let me know. I'm definitely curious. Thank you guys so much for watching. Don't forget to subscribe to keep up with some more videos, and I'll see you all next time.